Alright, skipping ahead of chapter to chapter 9, safety. General. Safety and welding operators, foremen, inspectors, construction at the construction job site. A primary consideration, primary precaution must be taken to ensure the safety completion of the construction project. The Occupational Safety Health Administration and the U.S. Department of Labor have the issue with the health safety standards covering such the topic of radiation protection, welding, cutting, or heating of the using a ladder, scaffold, seal correction, hearing of the ladder, hearing or the head protection must have the standards for welding or code regulations, Title 29, Chapter 17, Part 1910. 9.2 hazards. Welding and cutting. Welding and cutting is being done with the three major safety hazards must be considered with the adequate precautions taken. First, the eyes and exposed skin must be protected from the intense light, radiation, heat of the welding arc at the flame. Second, welding, cutting, and the grinding operation must be prevented from causing fire. Third care must be taken in handling welding and cutting containers that have held combustible toxic materials. Cutting and welding also must be done carefully in materials and fluxes, coatings, and base metal producing the explosive toxic fumes, and when heated, there are often safety consideration for the welding and cutting operations. All personnel involved with this should be familiar with the requirements of OSHA safety standards. American Welding Society also publishes and distributes information on safe welding and cutting practices. Radiographic inspection. Radiographic inspection involves ionizing the radiation involved and can be protected with the radiation primarily by shielding the distance for information for the safe procedure practice of the radiographically refer to Title 10 Code of Federal Regulations, American Society of the Non-Destructive Testing, American Welding Society. Alright, noise level. Hearing loss, either partial or total, the direct result of the working with either proper ear protection of the steel construction site. The contractor must conform with the OSHA standards for permissible noise level and time durations. Air quality. Welding and cutting operations increase the dust ozone layer near the construction welding. Galvanized steel also releases zinc oxide, which can be very dangerous, very hazardous to welding operators and their assistants. Therefore, proper ventilation should be provided for all the personnel air in the welding site. Particular attention should be paid to safety when personnel air welding inside personnel are welding inside a large tank. There should always be ventilation for such operation. Our references. These are all the references. Appendix B, qualification testing. Let me see how long this is. And then a bibliography. Alright, Appendix B, qualification testing. B1, project manager must determine the ability of the manufacturer, contractor, fabricator, or the director of project quality welds consistently with the qualification requirements, ensuring the proper training of the welding personnel, use of the approved procedures, inadequate equipment. The qualification requirements include the wide range of materials, procedure, processor, equipment, personnel for the construction, projection, and weld quality assurance program, and use of the qualifying testing for the welding procedure for the welding process. Procedure for the qualification. Purpose of the procedure for the qualification test is to demonstrate with a certain procedure for the produce the welds of suitable mechanical properties for the soundness. With that method, small test place with the same chemical composition production welding are weld with the proposed production procedure for the joint geometry, welding process, the welding parameter, builder metal, shield materials, weld position used to make with the test material plates with the use of the same equivalent with those of the actual reduction weld. Plates are then tested to see whether the weld and soundness mechanical properties meet the acceptance standard for the production weld requirements for the qualifying the welding procedure are governed by the code concerning the weld specified application testing. The production for the qualification plates are usually tested with the non-destructively with the same test required for the production weld, but the plate must be to meet the non-destructive test acceptance standards of the code applicable to the weld as specified as use. Tensile and bend tests are normally used with the procedure qualification plate. Some of the welds are also required nickel break test, impact test, or metallurgical examination. 3 tensile test specimens are removed so that the long axis specimen of the transverse welding direction is centered with the welds with the center line with the actual specimen of the geometry varies the wide with the meet the requirements of various welding codes. Specimen may be rounded with the flat, may have the reduction section of the flat specimen, may have the welding reinforcement removed with the TD acceptable. The tensile specimen must be executed with the minimum requirements of the welding code for the type of the material being used. The primary purpose of the tensile test is to demonstrate that the weld metal deposit of the selected procedure is strong enough to meet the design requirements. Alright, 4. 3 types of bending of the tests are used for the procedure of qualification. Root bend and face bend tests and used with materials with up to 3/8 of an inch thick. Side bend tests are used to use thicker metals. And the name of these procedures refer to the surface at the stretch and the tension during the bending. And if the root to bend test, the root of the weld is placed in the tension with the face bend. With the side bend test, the weld crown and the transverse area with the cross section respectively put in the tension during the bending. Specimens are manufactured ground to remove the welding reinforcement of the bent around the die to specify the radius, the amount of the elongation of the testing tension surface, but is usually 20%, with the bend test indicated with the ductile weld and metal defects. The small defects in the weld depend upon becoming readily visible. Acceptance of criterion bend status test is no fissures exceeding the specified length of usually 1/8 of an inch may be present with the tension surface area after bend. Alright, 5. Some of the welding codes require nickel brake tests to detect weld defects. Nickel brake test specimens are similar to rectangular tension test specimens, except that the notches are cut at the center of the weld. The specimen is broken either in pulling it into tension or bending it. The notches cause the specimen to break in the weld metal. After this, extra surfaces are examined for the weld metal defects. There are too many defects. The weld is rejected. Alright, 6. Various types of impact testing are sometimes used to test the fracture toughness of the weld metal, but when low alloy, high strength tensile steel are being welded, the tests are designed to measure the capability of welding metal, resist crack propagation of the under lower stress conditions. Metallographic examination involves the polishing, etching, examining welding sections under low magnification to detect porosity, cracks, and other defects in the weld. These tests may be required by a certain application, particularly when welded. Welding configurations does not allow meaningful test results to be obtained with using the mechanical property test method discussed above. Useful procedure qualification. Procedure qualification tests are used to demonstrate the quality and property of the welding before the production, since it's almost impossible to duplicate the actual production of the welding condition in the test conducted under simulated conditions. The actual welding situation conditions arrived that does not have the man anticipated with the procedure was being qualified. Abrupt weather change, therefore, the production phases must be closely supervised so that the conditions are noticed as they occur. If these factors can alter any quality of the weld, they should be evaluated. B3. Welder and welder operator qualifications. Generally, the weld qualities determine the specific welding procedure ability of the welder and welder operator to apply the procedure. Welder qualification testing determines the operator's ability to produce sound welds that conform to the procedure specification. The test indicates whether the welder operator can produce acceptance welds. Do not indicate whether he or she is produce acceptable welds during actual production. Consequently, during the construction process, the welds must be inspected before and after completion. Alright, B. Method of in-personal qualification testing. Welder operator is required to weld the small test plate with the material which is the same as the cylinder of the actual production weldment. The qualified procedure for the weldment must be used the qualification plate, then the non-destructive examination tested. These steps ensure the welding soundness meets the minimum acceptance standard for the welding code governed with particular attention. Testing method used for the personal qualification testing using include the non-destructive examination applicable to the specific job and any combination of the bending test described previously. In some instances, a nickel brake test may also be required because of the examination of welded soundness rather than welded metal properties. Tensile tests are usually not required for the examining personnel qualifications. Useful personnel qualification. The personnel qualification tests assure the customer of the welder has been screened or capable of producing welds that conform the procedure specification requirements. These tests do not guarantee the welder will produce the satisfactory weld each time, but not tend to eliminate welders whose work never accessible. With the procedure qualification value of personnel qualification increases when the production weld conditions are simultaneously as closely as possible. Bibliography, and then the order of secretaries.